American man.
Yeah, a lot of people saying here as well, all credit for him to be there.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Can I tell you a story? Can I blow my own trumpet? Not that I do that very often. But Ricky Hatton was still asleep 19 minutes before the BBC went on there. 9.3 million people waiting for Ricky Hatton to be in front of camera, and he was still asleep. It was a mass effort, and we have to thank, or the BBC should be thanking, his lawyer Gareth and his mother and his father and his girlfriend Jen. It was touch and go getting him there, Mark. It wasn't easy, big boy.
And who's to say, Mark, that the coverage back here in the build-up to that fight actually won Joe the trophy?
Yeah.
We'll talk about Witter. I'll tell you what, we'll talk about Witter a little later.
Okay.
This is 5 Live Boxing.
David Haye could be a man ready to make waves in the heavyweight division, but not just yet. March the 8th at the O2 Arena. Haye against Enzo Maccarinelli to unify the cruiserweight division. All sorts of texts coming in about this. Here's one from James. I got my Maccarinelli Haye ticket. I can't wait. Not only that, I can't separate them. What a fight it's going to be. I mean, I was so impressed with David Haye when he came in here to 5 Live Boxing last time. I mean, I thought, wow, you know, this guy's got it. But this is going to be incredible, isn't it?
You would have been impressed with Enzo too, and that's another one of the elements of this fight. That the build-up will be very different to the trash-talking build-ups we've seen elsewhere. But this is a fascinating showdown. These are two men who are still improving, and for all of this boom that we've been talking about in the British game for the last couple of years and more, what we needed was a big domestic showdown, and that's what we've got. They're 27, they've lost once apiece. They're both big hitters, both can be a bit vulnerable around the chin. And this was a fight that we were talking about maybe on this very show
last January,
a year ago,
yeah,
hoping that it would take place in April, and it was all but signed and sealed, but it didn't happen. So it's more attractive now.
So in your great domestic dust-ups, where does this one rank then, Bunsey?
Well, first of all, people keep saying, oh, it's as good as Ben and Eubank. Well, in many ways, I think it's better than Ben and Eubank, and I'll tell you for why. Not because Ben and Eubank were bad fighters, they weren't, and they were great characters, but here's the difference. In 1990, when Ben and Eubank first fought in Birmingham, you could not get a ticket for love or money. It did captivate the front and the back pages, but at that time, those two guys, they were fighting for the WBO middleweight title. They weren't even the best in Britain. The best in Britain was Harold Bomber Graham from Sheffield, only about 60 miles up the road, who no one would fight. Now, when they had their rematch at super middleweight in 1993, 42,000 people at the Theatre of Dreams fighting. They both had a version of the super middleweight title. But here's the thing, not shock horror, this is the absolute truth. Neither of them were the best super middleweights in the world. That was a guy called James Toney. So as great as those domestic fights were, and they were incredible, this is different. We've got here the #1, and I would argue the #2. There's another American called Steve Cunningham, but it's a toss-up between Steve Cunningham and watching paint dry for a good night in on a Tuesday in Scunthorpe. Trust me, and I'm not joking. So it's these two guys, Enzo Maccarinelli, David Haye. They're bringing together the 3 belts. And here's the thing, 40 stoppages between them, 30 inside the first 2 or 3 rounds. I think, and people in boxing have been scorning at me, spitting on my back, throwing apples at me, throwing tomatoes at me. I think this is better than Ben and Eubank in many ways.
Well, let's hear from both men, Enzo Maccarinelli, and first David Haye.
He's not going to enjoy it. He's never been hit by anyone as fast as me. He's never been in the ring with anybody even close to my level.
Now it's Haye who opens up. First 40 seconds of round 7, and Haye is really beginning to get through here now.
You need to perform, you know. You've been telling people for years, you can knock me out, you can do this in the first couple of rounds for me. But good, here I am, March 8th, I'll be standing in the middle of the ring. I won't be backing off, I won't be scared like some of his other opponents, and we will go to war.
It's a right hook this time from Maccarinelli, and Delaney has gone down once more for the 5th time in this fight.
It's going to be a rude awakening for him once the bell goes, and once he realises what he got away with against a lower level of opposition will not even come close to getting through to me.
Has this pummeling for at least 6 of the 8 rounds from David Haye started to take its toll?
He's been hit by a lot lesser opponents than me on a regular basis. I do not think once I start landing my shots regularly, he's going to enjoy it, and I think he's going to be hitting the floor pretty soon.
Haye weaves away nicely from an on-rushing attack.
I think the closest he's come to fighting someone with similar style to me was against Wayne Braithwaite, and he was coming off two losses of his last 3 fights. Obviously, in a short notice, he wasn't in the type of shape that I'm going to be in. He doesn't punch as hard as me. He hasn't got as good experience as me. So that's as close as he's come to me before.
Left hook and a right uppercut, all landing from Maccarinelli.
This style is tailor-made for me to expose, you know. My punches are that fast, he's upright, he's tall. I don't have to go digging him out like I did with John Mark Mormack. He was like really cagey, very, very difficult to land flush early doors.
Haye is really beginning to get through here now. What a terrific turnaround. He goes for the uppercut, and Mormack is down, and he falls face first. first.
Overall, I wasn't too impressed. I think Mormick sort of let him off the hook. But you know, can't fault the man. Went over the other guy's backyard. He got dropped himself, and you know, at one point he looked really out of it, and he turned the fight round and he knocked Mormick out. You know, what can you say?
A sensational turnaround by David Haye. He looked all but beaten, all but knocked out in the 4th round, and David Haye is the world champion.
Before this fight, I thought it was pretty much impossible for the fight to happen, but since I've won that undisputed title, that being world recognised #1, I think their team have realised for their boy Enzo to be considered #1, they have to go through me. So he pretty much forced their hand and forced the fact that they have to make the fight, and it's been made. And it's going to be a tremendous fight.
There's always going to be questions, can he beat me? So, you know, that was a fight. He obviously had what he wanted, they given the money that he wanted, and now the fight's happening, and, you know, I can't be happier.
The fight's at the O2 Arena, one of the best indoor arenas in Europe, even in the world. And obviously it's in my home turn, in southeast London. I was born in Bermondsey, the fight's in Greenwich. So it couldn't be better for me, really. You know, I was expecting to have to go to Wales for this fight, but obviously the fight's in London. I'm a Londoner, and it's going to be great.
I tell you now, no matter what he does, what training he does, he won't be as fit as me, and he won't be as strong as me.
Beautiful shot by Enzo Maccarinelli. Seemed to wipe out all punch resistance on Dominguez, and he is on the canvas.
To get a bit of Mexican machismo and just want to stand there. And, you know, if we do stand there, I can keep that pace up for 12 rounds. I don't think he can.
I think I'm going to break his heart, and once he realises the success isn't there, he's going to go down and stay down.
Well, it's interesting hearing from the two guys. You're listening to 5 Live Boxing. Mike Costello and Steve Bunce is here. Let's a few texts coming in on these first of all. Hayes too fast. He's had the top level fights as well. Enzo has fought rubbish by comparison. That's one from Matt. Another one. I think David Haye should thank Carl Thompson for where he is, because that loss to Carl woke him up and stopped him from being too arrogant as well.
Yeah, I do think that was a pivotal point in his career, and credit to David Haye for turning things around the way he did. Credit also for taking that fight at that stage of his career, but he did learn an awful lot there, and I think his performance against Jean-Marc Mormick was the performance of a mature fighter. He didn't panic when he went down in the 4th round. It was a long time before he worked his way back into the fight, and when he did finally finish it, I just get the sense that was such an important win for him, that he will have grown from that.
Well, I was going to put to you there, Bunsey. Now stepping out as a world champion, do you feel that he will improve automatically?
Oh, it gives him that sort of extra air. The big thing here is whether or not David has taken this fight for pride, or whether he's taken it for money, or whether he's taken it to see him move to another level. Now, of the last of those three, I can't see how it moves him to another level, because he said this is absolutely the last fight at cruiserweight. So I'm hearing it's not tremendous money, so it's taking it for pride, and it's great for us. Witness that whisper. It's great for us, the fans, taking a fight for pride, but it's the worst reason in the world to agree to a fight, whether you're an 11-year-old boy in your first year as a schoolboy, or whether you're a 25 or 26-year-old dangerous banger, world-class fighter, to take it for pride. And I have a feeling they've both taken it for pride. And I don't know about you, Mike, that scares me slightly.
Yeah, I mean, I had a long chat at the press conference on Monday of this week with Enzo Calzaghe, and, you know, as you'd expect from a trainer, because we heard similar from Billy Graham in the build-up to the Hatton fight, they do make a very convincing case. But he was saying that since Enzo Maccarinelli has been in the gym with Joe Calzaghe and the rest, he's developed a big engine, he says, a really big engine, because when he spars with Joe, it's non-stop. There are no rest periods within the rounds, and so he's developed this momentum and this engine. And he also says, and he feels that this will be crucial in the fight, is he says he's got another plan. If the first plan, whatever that will be, is not working, he's got another one. And Enzo said that he doesn't think Haye's got that, and that Haye is on a certain level as a very good fighter, but that Enzo can step up and will step up. So,
well, we haven't seen Enzo step up in class yet. We've seen a step up against class. We've seen Enzo change his style. He did it a couple of times this year where he boxed as opposed to leading with his chin and his heart. But because there is so much pride at stake here, and I have a feeling that this will snowball this fight. I think this is going to be, from about the middle of February on, I think this is going to absolutely dominate, because people are going to sit down, they're going to look at the stats, they're going to look at the 40 stoppages, 30 inside the first 3 rounds. They're going to see these 2 eloquent guys, good-looking guys, nice guys, and this is going to capture people way outside of boxing, Mark. This is way outside of, I'm going to chin him, I'm going to knock him out, get to York Hall and see me on Saturday night. I have a feeling this is going to become a very big fight. Now, the problem with that, the bigger it gets, the more chance there is of one of them or 2 of them losing the plot and letting pride get in the way of sense. It's going to be fantastic. I mean, this is not a criticism of the fight. This is great for the fight. But I think the winner of this fight, and I'm like lots of the texters tonight, Mark, I'm 50-50. I really am. I'm absolutely 50-50. But the winner of this fight is the guy that keeps his head, keeps control.
Here's a question, Stephen.